this morning to share her story with you. Would you give a big hand to Karla Wagner as she comes? You may be seated.
It is kind of hard to see all y'all out there. Hi, I'm Karla Wagner, and I'm here today to share with you the amazing things that God has done in my life since I gave Him all control. I stood before you a year ago with a cardboard testimony. I'd relapsed, full force back into my eating disorder. I knew what God could do, but did not believe it in my heart. I still wanted to be in control when actually I was out of control. The reality was that I was fighting God. I began struggling with anorexia in 1983. It was not in an effort to meet society's image of a thin body. It was to deal with my parents taking control of me and my unborn child and the rejection of my child's father. Despite the general population's beliefs, eating disorders are not about food, but an effort to deal with life issues. My coping skills became restricting my food, laxative, and diuretic abuse. As a result of my years of behavior, I eventually lost my colon in 1994, and at one point was hospitalized for a diuretic overdose. Finally, in 2002, I'd met the clinical requirements to classify me as being in recovery, but the reality was that I had not completely given it to God. In December of last year, I finally heard the concern of others and realized that they saw things that I couldn't see. I then entered treatment at Atlanta Center for Eating Disorders. During my first 2 weeks of treatment, God removed me from all my child care positions. At this time, my world, as I had known it, came crashing down. Nurturing children is my calling. Much later, I realized it was God's way of getting my attention. I was working within the gift that God had given me, but was neglecting caring for my own needs. My depression and hopelessness deepened, but my desire to get well was slowly increasing. Just a few weeks into my treatment, my insurance refused to pay for any further treatment. This was when I realized that to move forward at all, it was up to me to face my addiction. In fear, I retreated because my eating disorder seemed so much stronger than me. My solution was to withdraw to my bed, and that is where I remained for several weeks. During this time, ladies I had met in Celebrate Recovery, as well as others, called several times a day to offer support and encouragement. About 3 weeks into this depression, I was listening to Joyce Meyer as she referred to John 5:6 in her teaching. It says, when Jesus saw the man by the water, he knew he'd been sick for a long time, and Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be well?" It seemed that every TV minister I listened to that week was relaying the same message to me. It was then that I realized that God was asking me this very question directly. My response was a definite yes. Praise God for Dr. Buchanan's willingness to see me through this and her prayers. She's recently shared with me her concerns in December 2008, that upon entering treatment, that I might not have lived to finish it. But this time around, I wanted to be well, totally, and not just better. I wanted complete deliverance from the eating disorder. With this being my desire, it became easier for me to be compliant with my treatment team's instructions, but I had still not completely surrendered and given it all to God. Then, on June 19th, 2009, the prayers of everyone, including myself, were finally answered. I was invited to a ladies' prayer group. I was resistant in going because I knew that God was about to take away the only way I felt control. As the ladies there prayed over me, I literally felt God pulling me up out of the pit, and at the same time, the enemy was holding me down. It was when I finally cried out and asked God to take away all of my eating disorder that my eyes were opened and my spirit was set free. I left that night and have not really struggled again since. The freedom that I now live in confirms the promise that God gave me in 2002 in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Well, God has restored me and has reopened doors to enable me to use the gift that He has given me with children and an even deeper desire for planting seeds of His truth in them. None of this would have been possible without a dedicated commitment to God and my recovery. I would like to give a special thanks to my husband, Brad, to Dr. Linda Buchanan, to Nadine Griffin, to Cheryl Smith, to the Chastain Small Group, to the Starn Small Group, to Celebrate Recovery, and this church family and others for sticking by me and keeping me lifted up in prayer. Thank you for letting me share this with you this morning.